All right, we're live. Welcome to the Restoration Church of Christ Wednesday night Bible study. I'm Pastor Ned Hairston. We meet here every Wednesday night at 5 o'clock California time to study the Word of God. Tonight, we're studying Exodus chapter 24. This is the latest part in a study of the Torah, of the first 5 books of the Bible. We've previously studied Genesis. We've also studied Revelation and Matthew and Esther. So, please keep coming back. And if you're interested in those previous studies, go ahead and look them up in the playlist that is attached to this video. If you're joining us again, the part of Exodus that we're going through now is the building of the tabernacle. And it's kind of a dry portion to read. It starts out in chapter 24 with Moses and the leaders of the people of Israel going up to Mount Sinai into the presence of the Lord. And this is something that stands in stark contrast to the receiving of the 10 Commandments in chapter 20. In chapter 20, God says to Moses, I want to make you, all of Israel, a nation of priests. And the people see God and they're afraid. They're so afraid, they say, let God speak to Moses and not to us. If he speaks to us, we will die. That's how afraid they are of their God. And so here, God calls Moses and the leaders of the people to Mount Sinai so that he can establish a covenant with them, a place where he will meet, a tabernacle, a place where he can meet in the presence of the Israelites, but he can be covered, right? There will be curtains that separate the presence of God from the people of Israel so that they don't have to be afraid. Now, in chapter 24, it says, he said to Moses, come to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu. Now, Nadab and Abihu are Aaron's sons, all right? And 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship from a distance. Moses alone shall come near to the Lord, but they shall not come near. The people shall not go up with him. Moses came and told the people all the Lord's words and all the ordinances, right? Those are all the decisions. So all the Lord's words and all the decisions. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has spoken, we will do. Moses wrote all the Lord's words, then rose up early in the morning and built an altar at the base of the mountain with 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. He sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of cattle to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. He took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people, and they said, we will do all that the Lord has said and be obedient. So all this pomp and circumstance, the pillar, the altar, right? The ritual of it is so that the people remember what they've agreed to. That while Moses is gone on the mountain, they're going to be obedient. They're going to follow the decrees of God. They're going to follow his 10 commandments and all of the cases, all of the court cases that they brought before Moses They will abide by his decisions. So this is what they've agreed to, and there's a big party, there's a celebration. There is pomp and circumstance so that they will remember. No one forgets a party after all. Verse 8, Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, "Look, this is the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you concerning all these words." Now, I don't know about you, but anytime that if I sweat, I have to go wash my face, my hands, everything. You know, the idea of Moses sprinkling the blood on people, just it gives me goosebumps. It makes me squirm a bit, and I think that's the point. It should make you a bit uncomfortable, because not only do they have the celebration, the offerings, the religious ritual of it, then they have this thing that should make them deeply uncomfortable, being covered in blood, to remind them of the severity of it. Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up. They saw the God of Israel. Now, this is no small thing, right? Not many people in the Bible see God and live. And we are always told how amazing a thing it is. It stands out. They all saw God. Under his feet was like a paved work of sapphire stone, like the skies for clearness. He didn't lay his hand on the nobles of the children of Israel. They saw God and ate and drank. This is where it tells us that it is actually incredible that they saw God and lived, right? He did not extend his hand. In other words, he did not call for their deaths. They saw God and ate and drank. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the stone tablets with the Torah and the commands that I have written, that you may teach them." Now, here we have a word here. It says law, and I want to look this up real quick here. We are in chapter 23. I want to look this up in a book that gives me a little more transparency, because when I see words like law in the Bible or ordinance, I think to myself, that's probably not being faithfully translated. And we are in verse 12. So, and the reason that I think this is translators tend to be kind of fast and loose with these words. So verse 12, on the seventh day, I'm in the wrong chapter, I think. Go up and there we go. Verse 12, go up to the mountain and remain there. I will give you tablets of stone, the instruction and the command. So most likely this word is Torah in Hebrew. I can look it up, and it's dreadfully important, because this whole book, by the way, is called Torah. 24-12. But Torah itself doesn't just mean this book. It means instruction. It means, yes, HaTorah. So and the law. So it doesn't just mean, and it doesn't necessarily mean the entire book, the 5 books of Moses. It doesn't mean this whole thing. It just means that God will give him, at the very least, the 10 commandments, right? And that's what we're used to, the idea that there are 2 tablets with the 10 commandments on them. And that those 10 commandments in this instance constitute Torah written by God himself. So verse 12, the Lord said, "Come up to me on my mountain and stay here, and I will give you the stone tablets with the Torah and the commandments that I have written, that you may teach them." Moses rose up with Joshua, his servant, and Moses went up onto God's mountain. He said to the elders, "Wait here for us until we come again to you. Behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whatever is involved in a dispute can go to them." Moses went up on the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The Lord's glory settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. The 7th day, he called to Moses out of the middle of the cloud. The appearance of the Lord's glory was like devouring fire on top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. Moses entered into the middle of the cloud and went up on the mountain. And Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. So there's something interesting going on here, starting in verse 15. For one thing, we have the idea of the Lord calling Moses on the 7th day, right? That there echoes the story of creation. Whatever is going on with God settling on the mountain is an act of creation. And on the 7th day, the day of rest, that is when he calls Moses to come to him. And then Moses is there for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, that echoes the story of Noah's Ark, right? That the 40 days and the 40 nights of rain, this isn't just creating something. It's purifying something. It is setting something right. So we have these numbers that tell us that whatever is happening is like creation and is like the recreation of the world through Noah's Ark. Chapter 25, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel that they take an offering for me. From everyone whose heart makes him willing, you shall take my offering. This is the offering which you shall take from them: gold, silver, bronze, blue, purple, scarlet, fine linen, goat's hair, ram's skins dyed red, sea cow hides," whatever those are, "acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, onyx stones and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate. Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell amongst them." Now, it begs the question, where did they get all this stuff? Right? They had just fled Egypt. They have been living as slaves in Egypt. But the Torah actually tells us where they got it from. They got it from the Egyptians. Remember the story of their fleeing Egypt, that God told them, when you are leaving the land, ask for these things, and they will be given to you. And in this way, you will plunder the land of Egypt, not because you go to war with them, but because they will see your plight under Pharaoh and they will have sympathy for you. So they received all these riches from the people of Egypt. God is saying, take an offering from them, from these things that you received freely from the people of Egypt. Gold, silver, bronze, fine cloth and leathers, wood, hides, oil, spices, incense, and precious stones. He says, let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell amongst them. And the next few chapters, this is what we're going to be talking about, is the sanctuary. Now, it was pointed out to me in one of the study Bibles I read earlier today. In fact, this one, The 5 Books of Moses by Everett Fox. Wonderful book. I lean on it heavily. That this is a story about the genesis of the Jewish people, and a full third of it is dedicated to a description of the tabernacle. Later on in 1 Samuel, we'll get a description of the temple. But here, it's a description of the tabernacle, and the temple will be described in exactly the same terms with the same proportions as the tabernacle. But this book isn't really about how to build a temple or a tabernacle. It is about the origin of the Jewish people. But that's the thing. The tabernacle is so central. The worship of God is so central to the idea of Israel that it is a full third of the experience. It is the heart of the experience of what this means. And so it goes into great detail in describing the temple. And we'll get these plans over the next few chapters. But people have noted you can't rebuild the tabernacle from the description that's given in Exodus. The fact is, it's a description of a tabernacle, but it's not a plan for a tabernacle. Architects would have to work within the framework they're given, but they cannot rebuild it from the description that's given. So ultimately, what the Lord tells them is not really a plan, but a description. And really, that describes so much about the Torah. It's not a set of laws to be mindlessly followed. It doesn't give us all the laws that we need to rule a nation, for example, but it's a description of laws by which a nation may be ruled. In other words, it gives us a framework, and we're to fill in the details. The tabernacle is proof of that, right? We have a description of a tabernacle that isn't really enough to build a tabernacle by, but it's enough to tell us what it should look like. We have descriptions of laws. We have Torah. We have descriptions of laws that aren't really enough to rule a nation by. It's not even really enough to rule our own lives by. Some decisions we're going to have to make for ourselves. And God gives us the space to do that. It's just like with Jethro. Make the easy decisions, let the elders of the people decide. But the big decisions you take before God. And that is the lesson that we're to take from this tabernacle, this really arcane description of a tabernacle. So let's continue. If anyone has any questions, please type them in the group chat. And since I forgot to say it before, if you are having trouble with the group chat, I do, of course, have my phone with me. My contact information is at the church website. You can text me during the Bible study, and I will reply on screen and not by text. So if you call me, I will not answer because I'm not going to take your questions by phone. That would be unfair to the people watching. So here we go. Chapter 25. We've already read the description of all the wonderful goods they're going to be filling the tabernacle with. Verse 8, let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell amongst them. This is what God wanted from the beginning when he said, I want you to be a nation of priests. I want every one of you to come into my presence, right? God is inviting them into this Eden scenario of walking and talking with God. But they've rejected that. So he's saying, okay, you don't want to walk and talk with me. Let me set a sanctuary and I will live in the middle of you, but you can be separated from me by these cloths, right? These curtains, that I may dwell amongst them. According to all that I show you the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furniture, even so you shall make it. So he does show them what the tabernacle should look like on the mountain. We're not given all of that description, but we are given considerable description that we might be able to imagine what it looked like, even if we can't rebuild it from this description. They shall make an ark of acacia wood. Its length shall be 2.5 cubits. Its width 1.5 cubits, and 1.5 cubits its height. You shall overlay it with pure gold. You shall overlay it inside and outside, and you shall make a gold molding around it. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them on its 4 feet. 2 rings shall be on the one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. You shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry the ark. The poles shall be in the rings of the ark. They shall not be taken from it. You shall put the covenant, which I shall give you, into the ark. You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. This is a very strange word in Hebrew, by the way. It means literally cover. It also means literally mercy seat. It's a very strange word, and it's really only used here. I want you to note that the ark is in the Holy of Holies, right? It's in the holiest part of the temple. And inside the ark, which represents the presence of God, are God's commandments. This will be important later. You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. You shall make 2 cherubim. Now, cherubim are winged sphinxes, right? You've seen the Sphinx of Egypt. Imagine it with 2 big wings just coming up. That's what a cherubim or a cherub is. It's a sphinx, sort of. You shall make 2 of them, cherubim being the plural of cherub, of hammered gold. You shall make them at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub at the one end and make 1 cherub at the other end. You shall make the cherubim on its 2 ends of one piece with the mercy seat. The cherubim shall spread out their wings upward, covering the mercy seat with their wings, with their faces towards one another. The faces of the cherubim shall be towards the mercy seat. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the covenant that I will give you. There I will meet with you, and I will tell you from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubim which are on the ark of the covenant, all that I command you for the children of Israel. All right, so the Holy of Holies. This is the place where God dwells. All right, it's a tent within a tent within a tent. And it is so separated from the people outside that it's literally 3 tents in. And inside that, God sits on a throne made of gold upon 2 cherubim facing one another. And under the throne are his words. And this is in stark contrast to the idols of temples of the Near East, right? So in the time of Moses, a temple would have an idol to a god. And that God may be sitting on a throne. There would also be a bed where the god is said to sleep, and perhaps with the god's consort, right? And you can look at the idol, and that representation it is the god. All right, the idol in the ancient sense is the god. And you would give your food offerings to the god. You would give your drinks offerings to the god. But in God's temple, in this tabernacle, there's only an empty chair. And the only 2 represented beings are the cherubim holding up God, in a sense. They are servants of God, and they aren't given names. And this is interesting because normally if there was a representation in a temple, right, it would be a god. It would have a name. Well, there's 2 of them here. They have no names. They represent angels. All that's in there is a chair. And the thing that the chair holds are the words of God. You see, where every other temple on earth is saying, this is the face of our God, this is our God's presence on earth, our God's presence on earth is in his words, in his instructions, in his Torah. That is the presence of God on earth, and that is what the ark is meant to communicate. That God doesn't dwell in statues. God isn't something that you can put in a corner of your room. He's not something that nations can control, right? He can't be put in the courthouse. He can't be put in the seat of power. God will go where he wants, and he will be represented on earth by the things that he has told us. So, verse 22, there I will meet with you, and I will tell you from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim, which are on the ark of the covenant, all that I command you for the children of Israel. Verse 23, you shall make a table of acacia wood. Its length shall be 2 cubits, with its width a cubit, and its height 1.5 cubits. You shall overlay it with pure gold, and make a gold molding around it. You shall make a rim of a hand width around it. You shall make a golden molding on its rim around it, and you shall make 4 rings of gold for it, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on its 4 feet. The rings shall be close to the rim for places for the poles to carry the table. Remember that the people of Israel are wandering in the wilderness. The tabernacle, the whole thing, has to be portable. Everything in it has to be portable. But these things are made of gold. They're made of wood. They're solid. And so they give a sense of stillness, of stability, even in the midst of their travels. You shall make its dishes, its spoons, its ladles, and its bowls with which to pour out offerings. You shall make them of pure gold. You shall set bread of the presence on the table before me always. You shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand shall be made of hammered work. Its base, its shaft, its cups, its buds, and its flowers shall be of one piece with it. Notice the language: base, shaft, cups, buds, flowers. It's describing a tree. The lamp, the light, comes from a tree. There are sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of its one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of its other side. 3 cups made like almond blossoms in one branch, a bud and a flower, and 3 cups made like almond blossoms in the other branch, a bud and a flower. So for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand, and in the lamp stand 4 cups made like almond blossoms, its buds and its flowers, and a bud under 2 branches of one piece with it, and a bud under 2 branches of one piece with it, and a bud under 2 branches with one piece of it, for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand. Their buds and their branches shall be of one piece with it, all of it one beaten work of pure gold. You shall make its lamps 7. One for the staff. Okay. I'm trying to visualize this as we go. And they shall light its lamps to give light to the space in front of it. Its snuffers and its snuff dishes shall be of pure gold. It shall be made of a talent of pure gold with all these accessories. See that you make them after their pattern, which has been shown to you on the mountain. All right, chapter 26. So we've moved from the Holy of Holies to from the Holy of Holies to the holy place. And now we're going to continue. Moreover, you shall make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet with cherubim. Why 10? Well, we have 10 commandments, don't we? You shall make them with the work of a skillful workman. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits. 28 cubits. 28 cubits. That's no. And the width of each curtain, 4 cubits. All the curtains shall have one measure. 5 curtains shall be coupled together to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another. So we have the 5 and the 5, kind of like the 2 tablets with the 10 commandments, right? Coupled to one another. You shall make loops of blue on the edge of one curtain from the edge in the coupling, and you shall do likewise on the edge of the curtain that is the outermost in the second coupling. You shall make 50 loops in the one curtain, and you shall make 50 loops in the edge of the curtain that is the second coupling. The loops shall be opposite one another. So every one of these, we have 5 curtains on one side, we've got 5 on the other, 50 loops, so 10 loops per curtain. We're reiterating the 10 commandments over and over again. And it almost represents this idea that all of the laws are extensions of the 10 commandments, right? They're interpretations of the 10 commandments. They're decisions made, filtered through those 10 commandments. And it's almost like the branches of a tree, like the lamp, right? The branches of a tree extending outward. and they extend from these main branches from the 10 Commandments. You shall make curtains. You shall make 50 clasps of gold and couple the curtains to one another with the clasps. The tabernacle shall be one unit. So they couple them all together to make one. And this echoes the Shema, right? Deuteronomy 6:5. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. And that is what brings it all together. You shall make curtains of goat's hair for a covering over the tabernacle. You shall make 11 curtains. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits. Why 11? Well, we're going to see an empty space here in a moment. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains shall have one measure. You shall couple 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves, and shall double over the 6th curtain in the forefront of the tent. You shall make 50 loops on the edge of the one curtain that is outermost in the coupling, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain which is outermost in the second coupling. You shall make 50 clasps of bronze, and put the clasps into the loops, and couple the tent together, that it may be one. And that's another thing that we'll see. You shall couple so that it may be one. In a sense, the tabernacle is this bridging of heaven and earth. It is a bridge to the divine. And so it is, in a sense, the way in which the people become one with God. The overhanging part that remains of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the tabernacle. The cubit on the one side and the cubit on the other side of that which remains in the length of the curtains of the tent shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle, on the side and on that side, to cover it. You shall make a covering for the tent of ram's skins dyed red, and a covering of sea-cow hides above. You shall make the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood, standing upright. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and 1.5 cubits the width of each board. There shall be 2 tenons in each board, joined to one another. Thus you shall make for all the boards of the tabernacle. You shall make 20 boards for the tabernacle, for the south side southward. You shall make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 tenons. For the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, 20 boards, and their 40 sockets of silver. Oh boy, so now we've gotten from the 10 Commandments to 40. And 40 representing, of course, the days of Noah on the ark, the 40 days of rain. And so we've joined 2 concepts together. We have joined the idea of the commandments with the idea of restoring the land. Verse 22, for the far side of the tabernacle, westward, you shall make 6 boards. You shall make 2 boards for the corners of the tabernacle in the far side. They shall be double beneath, and in the same way they shall be whole on its top to one ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for the 2 corners. There shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board. You shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle. The 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle for the far side westward. The middle bar in the middle of the boards shall pass through from end to end. You shall overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for places for the bars. You shall overlay the bars with gold. You shall set up the tabernacle according to the way that it was shown to you on the mountain. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, with cherubim. It shall be the work of a skillful workman. You shall hang it on 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold on 4 sockets of silver. You shall hang up the veil under the clasps, and shall bring the ark of the covenant in there within the veil. The veil shall separate the holy place from the most holy for you. You shall put the mercy seat on the ark of the covenant in the most holy place. You shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south. You shall put the table on the north side. You shall make a screen for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, the work of the embroiderer. You shall make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold. You shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. All right, we've got 15 minutes left, and I don't think we're going to make it through chapter 27. So we're going to stop here tonight. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat. We're finishing with the description of the Holy of Holies and, of course, the holy place. When we pick up, it will be with a description of the altar. And I don't blame you if you don't have many questions, because this is a very detailed description, but I want you to note the numbers. The numbers are what's important, because as it's been noted, you can't rebuild a tabernacle from this description. It is almost certainly not the way that Moses was shown it, but it is likely the way that Moses described it to the people who were going to build it, right? This is how they preserved the description of it. And the reason that I say that is because what we're told in chapter 25, I believe it was, is that Moses goes up onto the mountain, and we're given the description of what the people of Israel see, right? The cloud and the consuming fire, and it's a fearful description. We're told the perspective of the children of Israel, not what Moses sees. And so these are almost certainly not Moses's words directly, right? This isn't what he told the embroiderer. It's not what he told the goldsmith. But these are the descriptions that were preserved by the priests of the tabernacle, because we're being told from the perspective of the children of Israel what it's like to worship in the tabernacle. We're being told why they wanted a tabernacle in the first place, because they feared God, because they couldn't walk and talk with God as God desired of them. So if there are no questions, we'll finish it here tonight. Once again, this has been the Restoration Church of Christ Bible Study. My name is Pastor Ned Hairston, and I'm happy that you joined us tonight. Come back next week, Wednesday night at 5 o'clock California time. We'll be studying Exodus chapter 27. Until then, may the peace of God be with you, and I wish you all a wonderful week.